of Almanac. You have probably seen Tane Danger in his signature bow tie. Usually you've got a bigger bow tie than that. Tane has been an Almanac commentator. He has a very unique career. He sort of works in an area where humor and public policy intersect, and you could say, how did that happen? But Tane has done a really interesting job of showing how those two things can be connected. He's a graduate of the Humphrey School of Public Affairs. He's hosted a dozen candidates during the last 13 years. And Tane had a very busy day yesterday. He ran in the marathon, and I will say, came in, had good time. It's private, but I will give a shout out to our ukulele society. Yes. And he said the the Becketwood Ukulele Society really encouraged him on, and was a great.
That's why I made time.
Yeah. So anyway, let's welcome Tane Danger and our candidates to Becketwood.
Thank you, Eric. That's really nice. Hi, Becketwood. I am really excited to be here with you all. Thank you so much for having me again. My name is Tane Danger. I am your moderator for today. I am going to be really quick at the top just to kind of set the table for what we're hoping to do today. We have 4 of our leading candidates for mayor of Minneapolis. We are going to really try and create a space where we can hear from each of them on some of the really key issues. We have solicited questions from you all as a community. I have filled in some additional questions on some of the things that have come up. In general, what we're going to do is we're going to give candidates approximately 60 seconds for each question. I will have the option to follow up if we want more details or a specific with any of those, in which case we have fabulous timekeepers with Carolyn and David who are going to help us keep on top of all of this. And we're going to start with opening statements. Now, the only couple things I'm going to just ask everybody here in the audience. One, this is important today and just generally when we're out in public. Okay, if everybody can make sure that their phones are silenced or off. I don't know if phones turn off anymore. But whatever you need to do to just try and make sure our phones don't go off today, that would be really helpful. And then the other piece, which I'm assuming probably won't be that much of an issue, but I've done enough of these to just name it at the top. I would really ask folks to hold off on any applause or any other kinds of audience interjection throughout our forum until we get to the very end when everyone will have an opportunity to thank these candidates for being here. So, does that all sound good? Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, we're gonna open by turning the stage over to all 4 of our candidates, and for opening statements, we're gonna give each candidate actually 90 seconds. So I'm gonna just, in this case, go right down the line, starting with Jacob Frey. And for our opening statements, I've put just a straightforward question, which was actually something that was inspired by something someone here at Becketwood suggested, which is just the simple question of why are you the best person to lead the city over the next 4 years? So, Jacob Frey, we will get started with you.
Yes, and good morning, Becketwood. Thank you so much for having us. We're honored to be here. Tane, thank you so much for moderating. My name is Jacob Frey. I am the mayor of Minneapolis, and through the most difficult of times, our city has gone hand in hand, coming through adversity together. And Minneapolis is coming back. And I'm running for office for a final term to get the job done, to make sure that we can have the Minneapolis that we love for the next generation, to make sure that seniors are able to age in place, and to make sure that we realize every bit of potential in our city. I am a husband to an extraordinary woman in Sarah. I am a father to a 5-year-old Frida and a now 8-week-old Estelle. And just a month or 2 ago, my parents moved out here from the East Coast. They came, of course, to be closer to their grandchildren. But they also came out because my mom is presently suffering from depression. Dementia. We wanted to make sure that she has the resources that she needs and that we can be closer to her. I fell in love with the city of Minneapolis while running the Twin Cities Marathon. That was my first time here. I fell in love with a beautiful city in a park. The day after I graduated law school, I moved my entire life out here to Minneapolis. I love this city. We want to make sure that it is every bit of success, and we are seeing a real comeback right now, whether it's in the area of affordable housing. We are presently producing 8.5 times the amount of deeply affordable housing since before I took office. Or it's in the area of safety. For years, people have talked about wanting to see a comprehensive system for public safety, and in Minneapolis, we're making it happen. We have 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week mental health response, and we are building back our police force right now with diverse officers that want to make the difference in our city. We have more work to do, and I'm so proud to partner with you to make that work happen.
Thank you so much. Omar Fateh, turn it over to you. The question again is, why are you the best person to lead the city for the next 4 years?
Yeah, thank you so much to our host, and I want to thank all of you so much for taking time this morning and joining all of us. My name is Omar Fateh. I'm a state senator representing Southside Minneapolis, District 62. A little bit about myself is I'm the chair of the Senate Higher Education Committee, and I'm the vice chair of the Human Services Committee. I'm a husband. I'm a first-time father. My son will turn 2 months in a couple days. I'm the son of Somali immigrants. My father immigrated from Somalia in 1963, placed in Bozeman, Montana, where he quickly learned he was the only student on campus that was black, and in fact, in entirety of Bozeman, Montana. My mother shortly followed in the 70s, and I'm running because I love the city, and I love everything about this city. I've seen our people show up time and time again, despite the struggles and challenges that they're facing, showing up to City Hall, showing up to the Capitol, fighting for the city and the vision for our city that they believe we can become. Right now, we believe that there's a tale of two cities, one for the wealthy class and the donors, and then the rest of us, the transit riders, the young students, the seniors. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting our working families, our young people, and our seniors. As to the question why I'm the best equipped for this role, I have experience managing a similar size budget, $1.1 billion with the Higher Education Committee, in which we're able to turn around declining enrollment for 15 years. Up till now, we have increased in enrollment for the first time in over a decade and a half. I was proud to bring in $19 million in public safety aid for the city of Minneapolis last biennium. Does that say stop?
Yeah, but
Okay.
finish your thought. Please finish your thought.
I was really proud to bring in $19 million in public safety aid last biennium because I heard quickly from residents that public safety was a big issue, especially for our elderly people, our people in public housing. We wanted to make sure that our public safety system had the support it needed, especially in the city of Minneapolis. So with that, I'll pass it back off to you.
All right, thank you so much. DeWayne Davis, why, in 90 seconds, why are you the best person to lead Minneapolis for the next 4 years?
Thank you, Tane. He knows I'm a preaching professor. It may go long. Thank you all for hosting us. I've visited Becketwood many times before. I've had lunch here with some of the residents here as a minister. That's how I got to Minneapolis. I came here to minister a church after spending more than 20 years in Washington, D.C., where I worked for 20 years on Capitol Hill for 3 members of Congress, several progressive think tanks, and corporate lobbying, and most recently there I was the policy advisor for the National Episcopal Church, working on all of the issues that you were even talking about now, the Affordable Care Act and climate change. That's one of the reasons I am running for mayor. When I moved here, one of the things that I noticed, my family settled in North Minneapolis, and we saw so many disparities. And I called a dear friend who had lived here all his life to ask about it, and he said, get to work, and that's what we did. And so I started working with North Point Clinic to make sure that the providers were culturally competent. I started working with Hennepin County to make sure that HIV/AIDS strategy reached people in underserved communities. And in 2018, I worked for the Minnesota Poor People's Campaign so that we could bring living wages and stop gun violence. And I'm running now because we in Minneapolis are uniquely situated to do good work, especially given what's coming out of Washington. It is now time for all hands on deck to make sure that we can be the city that we know we can be, the city of the great Hubert Humphrey. We can do this, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you so much. And rounding us out, Jazz Hampton, why are you the best person to lead the city of Minneapolis?
Is it okay if I remove the mic?
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. First of all, thank you all for being here, and thank you for hosting Tane. Mayor Frey, thank you for sharing your personal story as well. I'm praying for you and your family as well as your mother. My name is Jazz Hampton, and I've lived within a few miles of where we're sitting right now for my entire life. That means I know the potential of this city, and I'm so excited to be the mayor that ensures that we're living up to that potential. I'm the son of a woman who ran a restaurant right across Highway 62, King Oscar's. I'm sorry if you had the lutefisk. I had to. My dad was, after leaving the military, he worked at the post office for his entire career, and they showed me firsthand that if you see a need, it's your job, Jazz, to step up and address that need. So I've been doing that for my entire life, and that's why I'm qualified to be the mayor of this city. When I started in law school, I was a public defender. Then when I graduated from law school, I went on and I was a corporate law lawyer for 5 years. Then after the tragedy of George Floyd, I quit my corporate law job to start a business called Turn Signal, a platform that connects drivers to an attorney on a video call instantly when they've been pulled over to de-escalate the interaction and ensure everyone gets home. From that work to being on the board of Catholic Charities for the last 5 years, addressing affordable housing, the Great North Innocence Project for the last several years, and also the Minneapolis Foundation. I'm doing the work across all of the places in the city that I love and raising my 3 children here that all go to Minneapolis public schools. I'm the person that can apply all of these life experiences and be the bridge builder we need within city leadership to bridge this gap and move our city forward to reach that potential that we all know and love. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So from here on out, we're going to try and do 60-second answers. I'm going to jump into a heavy, hard topic, but it was something several people submitted questions about, which is public safety and crime. So I'll name last month there was a mass shooting along the Greenway, very close to 35W. At a location that had been known as a drug market, and Hennepin County investigators have alleged that the shooting stemmed from a dispute over who got to sell drugs there. So one of our community members here asked, like many of the shootings that we hear about are tied to turf battles over things like drugs, prostitution, and even human trafficking. What is your specific plan to dismantle criminal networks and address crime? How substantively would it be similar or different from what we've seen in the last 5 years? And I'm actually going to just go the opposite way and start with Jazz Hampton.
Thank you. My brother graduated from Alexandria Tech's law enforcement program, and when I talk to him about this topic, one of the things that I hear time and time again is we need more officers within the city of Minneapolis. And beyond needing more officers, we also have to take more things off of their plates. If my car was stolen a few weeks ago, and when I called 911, it rang for 2 minutes before someone answered. They're busy, and they're doing too many things, and we do not have enough officers. We need to hire more officers. We need to form partnerships with additional cities within the state of Minnesota to improve the pipeline that we have, and we have to work harder at doing it. We have to expand the pool of individuals that are applying. Because here's the thing. If everyone in this room agrees that we need more officers, but we haven't gotten to the point that we should, then we have to try additional work to reach that goal. And with those additional officers, I would separate additional resources to go directly to property crimes and to other crimes of this nature that are rising. So if 250 windows are smashed, we will dedicate officers to addressing those within the cities or these open drug markets as well. More officers, improved response times.
So I'm going to do a follow-up, and I'll give you, because this is kind of complicated, so I'll give you another 30 seconds. How do we get more officers?
When I talked to a governor, a mayor of a rural city, he said we have 27 officers within our city, and they would love to move to an additional role in a bigger city, but they don't feel like there's a pipeline or they'll be welcome there. I think it's incumbent upon us as city leadership to let people know that not only do we want officers, but our community has built trust with them, encouraging them to come here. Because when I talked to an officer in Bloomington recently, he said, Jazz, I'm not sure if the culture will accept me. Can you help me understand that they will? That is one piece of the very large puzzle of the mosaic that we have to finish to ensure that we hire more officers in this city.
All right, DeWayne Davis, what would be your plan substantively in terms of addressing crime and public safety?
Thank you so much. There are, again, the technical pieces. The technical pieces, that is hiring more officers, but certainly in our situation, Minneapolis, make sure that we follow the court enforceable settlement agreement provisions about use of force, bias policing, and stop, searches, and seizures, but also other parts of the public safety matrix where we really have data collection management, our violence interrupter programs. That is everybody working in their full capacity to make sure that we're touching every part of our communities. But what I would task the Public Safety Commissioner and the Chief of Police to work on is a comprehensive violence intervention and reduction plan that is freshly refreshed every year. This comprehensive plan, I really mean comprehensive. That is not only what our police force is doing, what our public safety officers are doing, but working multi-jurisdictionally, working with the state, working with the sheriffs in the county, making sure that we are addressing every part of our communities for safety, everybody working and at their full capacity. I think we can make a dent in crime.
I'm going to probably do follow-ups with
Yeah.
everybody on this. Jazz Hampton just said we need more officers. The charter calls for 731 officers. Is that the right number?
I think for what we understand now, it is the right number. When I co-chaired the Community Safety Work Group, that was our number. And the first recommendation we gave the mayor, which actually I'm pretty happy that the mayor and the chief seem to be following it, we said broaden the recruitment effort, because we knew historically where we've been going for recruitment is to the military. We said broaden that recruitment so you can get a cross-section of people from a cross-section of professions to come, and I think we're doing pretty good, and we need to really double down on that, because if we do that, we can probably make sure that we get some people who actually live in Minneapolis and know the breadth of the problem.
Okay, and I'm going to come to Omar Fateh in just a second, but since Jazz Hampton, since I did bring this up and I didn't ask you, is 731 the right number? Would you do more or less? Quickly.
We're about 130 short of that, so getting there is a very good start, absolutely. But also hiring additional people that are not police officers to take some of the work off of those police officers' plates.
So at least 731?
Yes.
Okay. Omar Fateh, what would be your plan specifically to address crime, and how would it be substantively similar or different from what we've seen in the last 5 years?
Well, I think we need a shift in strategy. We had a city report that came out last year that showed that 47% of 911 calls to MPD can be diverted away from officers. So we know that, knowing that information, we need to beef up our alternatives, like our mental health responders, like our behavioral crisis response teams, and so on. That's why we worked really hard to bring in, from the Capitol, $19 million in public safety aid, because when you free up nearly half of the workload from our officers, that allows them to focus and respond to violent crime, in which we've heard many, many times that when folks call 911, there's a lot of times when officers either show up hours late or they don't show up at all. And we want to make sure we're keeping our community safe and that they are showing up. Now, the issue of crime is also a symptom of poverty. We got to make sure that we're raising wages and addressing that for our communities. But we also have to have an ambitious youth agenda, and that's one thing that I really want to bring, is starting early, investing in our youth, having youth programming, and also having youth jobs in the summertime for them so that they can have something to do, but also have money in their pockets to support their families, and that's the approach that I would take.
So follow up for you, I'm tying this back to what our community member offered. the space on the Greenway by 35W was something that was known to officers, that there was drug dealing that was happening there on a regular basis. So what looks different? Is it that officers are more proactive in breaking those things up, or is it that there's different roles? I understand the idea of breaking up and giving different jobs to different people, but this is one where we knew what was happening and we didn't break it up earlier.
Yeah, so the reason things are happening is a few things. Number one, the city is failing to address poverty in an adequate, sufficient way. We got to make sure that people have the resources and tools they need to succeed, good paying jobs, strong public schools, and so on. Yes, crime is going to persist unless we address that. For the issue of encampments, for example, we know that bulldozing encampments block by block does not house people. We need a long-term solution in housing folks. None of us, none of the challengers, none of you want encampments to occur. But the reality is it's going to keep persisting unless we invest in treatment, invest in wraparound services, invest in a housing-first approach. But in terms of the youth program aspect, I think that's extremely important, and I want to mention quickly why.
Sure.
I worked really hard to invest in a program called the Teamworks program within the city of Minneapolis, which was a jobs program for the park board, investing in a couple hundred youth. I learned two things from that. Number one, the city is not doing enough to providing families with the information about resources that are available for the families. And number two, when I got to speak to some of the youth afterwards about the program, after we did outreach, I learned about what they did. I said, hey, what do you spend the money on? I was expecting on an iPad or PS5. What they told me was, no, I helped mom pay rent the last couple months. And so these bad kids that you're seeing in the media are actually failed. We're failing them at a leadership level.
Okay, I understand. I appreciate that. And I have a whole set of questions that I'm going to ask about encampments and unhoused population. I just want to be really specific with this one in particular, because what was happening on the Greenway was not an encampment. It was, it was an open-air drug market. And so, again, just if you're mayor, do you send in police to break that up?
I think it's important for police to address violent crime in any situation, and that's
including drug dealing.
Absolutely, and and the reason why I'm saying that is because we know that the reason why it's not happening is because we're asking them to do too much. We're asking them to respond to every single call, and if we're allowing them to take off at least 47% of their workload, they're able to focus on violent crime. I think that's the right approach to take.
Okay, and then last thing, and then I promise, Jacob Frey, we're coming to you, but 731 sworn officers. Correct? I know that that's what the charter calls for. Is that what you're looking for, or more or less?
That's the line I think we should always be trying to recruit, especially within locally within Minneapolis, so that we have faces that reflect the community and people know.
And so your goal would be 731?
I'd keep trying to accomplish that until we get there. However, if we need to revisit it and we see that alternatives are working and that building up that capacity for the alternatives like mental health responders and folks, and we know that half of their workload is off, whatever's successful is successful, and I'd like to take that approach first.
So, I'm sorry, and I just to really, so are you, when you say we would look at that, is that like you would propose a charter amendment to reduce that number?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say in anything that we approach, especially in public safety, we need to look at it in terms of analysis and statistics, what's working and what's not working. If we're seeing that investing more heavily in these alternatives is working and that we don't need to get to that 731 level, then that saves up money for other things like municipal sidewalk shoveling for our seniors so that they can be more mobile in our local communities.
Okay, thank you. Jacob Frey, you've been very patient. So what would be your approach over the next 5 years, and in what ways would it be similar to what has been happening in the city, and are there ways that it would be different going forward? Yeah.
In Minneapolis, we have fewer police officers per capita than virtually any city in the entire country. And when I say virtually, I am not aware of another major city that has fewer than us. And so, yes, we do need to be doing the recruitment efforts to bring more officers into our police department. For years, I have heard from people that they want a police department that reflects the rest of the community. In other words, that is beautifully diverse and that is committed to Minneapolis. I'm proud to tell you that it is happening. Presently, Minneapolis has a more diverse police department than any time in our city's history. And the officers that are joining, they want to join because they want to be part of the change. They want to get in on the ground level. They believe in Chief O'Hara's leadership, and they want to protect and serve their communities as if they live here. And by the way, Many of them do and are starting to as we recruit more officers on. But it's not limited to officers. I agree with the other candidates that we need a comprehensive approach to public safety, and that means matching a unique skill set with the unique circumstances that are happening on the ground, and we're one of the few cities in the country that are building that out. But there's more work to be done. So what do? We need to be partnering directly with our U.S. Attorney's Office, as we did on the North Side. I'm proud to be endorsed by Andy Lugar, our former U.S. Attorney, and what we did on the North Side was we got ahead of a lot of these issues. We filed RICO charges. We made sure that we had a police officer embedded in the U.S. Attorney's Office so that we could prevent some of these really harmful drugs getting into our community, and we make sure that we're, prosecuting the perpetrators of this violent crime.
So we're at time for that, but I'm gonna push in the same way I did with Omar Fateh there. Something like, I'm using a specific example on the Greenway, but there are other examples of places where we know drugs are being sold, and that this, as our question asker said, this person believes like that is leading to shootings and other kinds of violence. What looks different in terms of how we intervene in those spaces going forward?
Well, I mentioned the partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office. That is something that worked very well on the North Side. Presently, the North Side has seen fewer shootings than any time since at least 2007. The North Side is safer than it has been for any time since at least 2007 with respect to shootings. We can implement much of that on the South Side. You mentioned the numbers of police officers. Even at 730, we are at or near the very bottom in terms of the per capita number of police. We need to be getting back to 888, which is where we were as of just prior to 2020 and this very harmful push to defund the police, which for the record, I have always opposed. And so that is work that is important. It requires working with partners, a number of multiple different jurisdictions to get the work done. Is this easy work? No. Is it simple? No. But having been through crisis and emergency, having been through some of the most difficult situations that our country has seen, you gain an experience that makes you a better leader and a better mayor, and I use those experiences every single day.
Thank you very much. I am going to move to unhoused population, homelessness, and encampments. And this is one where I'm really going to push and encourage the candidates to try and help us understand where your vision or your plan is different than our other candidates on stage. And just to illustrate why I'm asking that, I have quotes here from all of you. DeWayne Davis, we need more shelter beds and safe and community-led alternatives to shelters. Jazz Hampton, we need to expand low-barrier shelters, more permanent housing, more access to mental health. Omar Fateh, we need to increase funding for shelters and adopt a comprehensive approach to encampments. Mayor Frey, I've been at events where you talk about ending homelessness and providing more affordable housing and more access. So the Hennepin County currently contracts with nonprofits and other providers. They're already doing $190 million on emergency shelters, deeply affordable housing, rental assistance, hotel vouchers. And there's a complex conversation that we could have about roles of the county and the city. I'm curious, if you are mayor, what is different about how the city specifically moves forward in addressing homelessness and unhoused population? And I want to hold off on getting to the question of encampments. Just on this question of additional shelters and housing, do you believe the city should be putting more money itself into actual shelters? And if so, what does that look like? What does it cost and where? And just to, I'll start with DeWayne Davis.
I want to ask the question about how it would be different.
Yes.
And here's where it would be different. So what you just described about the county, how big it is and what their response and how much money they spend. What I think has been going on is that we've been relying on the county to solve our problem. And here's how I know that. Because our homelessness response team in office is not big enough for the scale of the problem. I looked at and maybe I'm wrong, maybe the mayor can correct me on this, but I saw that there are only 4 people on the homelessness response team, and they are part of regulatory services. I think we start off so that we can have a better understanding of how to direct the county's resources or how to work with the county if we had a larger homelessness response team that has a bead on what's going on in the community, that does several passes through, especially even before an encampment can get started. As soon as they see someone, that we have that kind of response going right away, then we can have a more fruitful conversation with how the county can help us respond to our homeless population.
I'm going to go to the mayor next, but just DeWayne Davis, specifically, I'm curious, like they're expanding the response and the number of staff who are working on that. Is city-run shelters part of that as well?
It could be. Here's the thing. Hopefully what we would do is that if we had that homeless response team, we will gain a lot of intelligence about what exactly is needed. So for instance, the answer may be shelter beds, but there also may be a situation where I've learned, talking to some of the Jordan Area Community Council in North Minneapolis, the big issue there in the unhoused population is people who would probably need immediate detox have no place to go. But if our homeless response team knew that, then we can begin to direct services and work with the county on how to best deploy the resources we need specifically for our unhoused population.
Okay, Mayor Frey, since you were specifically named in that, and it was 4 people, and they're in regulatory services for homelessness response, is that correct? Is that the right number? And how would the path forward look different potentially in the next 4 years?
I'm glad the Reverend thinks that we should expand, and the work that the homeless response team does has been productive, because I'm the one that proposed it and advocated for it from the beginning. But it's not just a homeless response team. It's the work that we do with our health department. It's making sure we have a health-centric approach. It's making sure that we have addiction, treatment, care, and prevention. It's ensuring that we are partnering with the social service provider that does this work in Hennepin County, and I can assure you that we are. As to, and I'm happy to expand on that, Tane.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, I think the fair question is, if you've been proposing that, why don't we have it yet? What is the hang-up, and how does it look different going forward?
First, we did propose additional resources to deal with and work through homeless encampments and provide people with the care that they need. That work was cut by the City Council during a budget markup. But additionally, we have added shelter beds significantly to our system. We've added about 4 new shelters over the last several years. We are providing more deeply affordable housing than ever before in our city's history. Before I took office as mayor, we rarely produced and developed deeply affordable housing. Now, we're producing 8.5 times the amount of deeply affordable homes since before I took office. This is housing so that people who are experiencing homelessness have the next rung on the ladder to pull themselves out. Previously, they didn't. And because they have, right now, in Minneapolis and in Hennepin County, whereas other cities are seeing a dramatic increase in homelessness and unsheltered homelessness, we are seeing as much as a 33 to 35% decrease. That's work that didn't happen by accident. Are we there yet?
Thank you.
No, we are not, but we are on the right track to get it done.
Thank you, thank you. Jazz Hampton, I'll come to you, and then back to Omar Fateh. So the city's role specifically in addressing homelessness, how is it different? What does the investment look like going forward?
I say this to my students at the University of St. Thomas all the time. Where you invest your dollars speaks to what you care about and are prioritizing. I cannot seriously look folks in the face and say that I would not fund additional work in this space when it is what I hear when I door knock and when I receive calls and when I'm talking to our constituents in the community. It's what we want to see the most, so of course we have to invest in it. And back to the very first question of how does my experience prepare me for this moment. Being on the board at Catholic Charities for the 5 years, I'm a little biased, but they do, dollar for dollar, the best housing work in the state. Why would we spend all of our money trying to learn how to recreate the wheel when we can partner with organizations that have a very long track record of doing it incredibly well in a compassionate way, because that's what needs to be done in this moment? Those are the kind of partnerships that I believe we have to delve further into. And yes, that means allocating additional budget to do that work. Because at the end of the day, if it is one of the top 3 things I'm hearing over and over again, yes, some of the city's dollars need to be allocated to that. I know this isn't about county and otherwise, but we also need to push to have their partnership in those dollars as well.
And does that include then additional I mean, one of the things we hear over and over again is that often the shelters are full. And so is it that we need additional shelters and I mean, sort of as a specific?
Absolutely. We need additional shelters. And let's be clear, what is the other thing we hear about too often? We have too many vacant buildings. We have to address the fact that we have vacant buildings and we need additional shelters. This is the kind of partnership that just makes sense in this city, one that's filled with dignity and rational pragmatism that we need to address and move forward within our city. So yes, absolutely, if we do not have enough beds and we have people sleeping outside and we have partners that are willing to help us do the work dollar for dollar better than anywhere else, let's lean into those partnerships.
Omar Fateh, same question. What is the city's role in providing additional shelter and services to our unhoused population? How is it different than all 3 of the other candidates on stage?
Well, that's a very good question. And the mayor has had 2 terms to address this, and there's no reason to believe why a 3rd term would be successful. And what I mean by that is right now, the current strategy has failed. And there's a big failure in addressing this through regulatory services. This is a public health crisis. We know in our encampments with our unhoused population, there's been a spread of infectious diseases like syphilis and hepatitis and HIV. We need a public health approach. We need to beef up the staff, just as the Reverend said, but we need to do it through the health department. We cannot do it through regulatory services. That's number 1. Number 2, we got to take a housing-first approach. We got to provide them with the services they need, the treatment they need, and also ultimately place them in housing. What I would do is I would take a cross-jurisdictional approach, because the city cannot go at it alone. We need to approach it with the county and with the state legislature. But that takes good relationships. There's a reason why the mayor is not endorsed by a single state senator or state representative, by the Minneapolis delegation, or a county commissioner. It's because the working relationship is not there, and the issue is going to continue to persist unless we have a good working relationship. I worked really hard to bring in millions of dollars to Simpson Housing, to Agate, and to Avivo to ensure that they have the services and the funding they need to service our unhoused population. But unless we address this at an individual basis, because we know each unhoused person has a unique story and a unique plan, this is not going to get done.
I'm going to give the mayor a chance to respond since he was specifically named, but I'm going to just one follow-up, because I clearly understand, Omar Fateh, where you differ with the mayor. How do you differ from DeWayne Davis and Jazz Hampton? I'm hearing a lot of additional investment, expanding the services. Where is your approach different than 2 of your other opponents?
Well, immediately we need at least 200 extra units specifically to house our unhoused population. I think we can do that. And also, I'd like to take a program called the Tiny Homes Program, in which was advocated by some of our county leaders and our city leaders, so that we can help place folks so that they have a home to stay in. But at the same time, we need to be really ambitious and aggressive and addressing one of the 2 top reasons in which folks are experiencing homelessness. Number 1, evictions. People are being evicted. We need a just cause eviction policy to make sure that folks are able to stay in their homes. But number 2, we need to better partner with our county and with organizations so that people can get the continuous treatment that they need when they need it and if they need it.
Okay. Jacob Frey, you were specifically named there, so I'm going to give you a chance to respond to what Omar Fateh just said in terms of that the last 2 terms have not been successful, and therefore the 3rd would not either.
Right now, Minneapolis is one of the only cities in the country that is seeing a dramatic decline in homelessness and unsheltered homelessness. Now, Senator Fateh and I do disagree on something substantial, which is that he has made very clear that he will not close homeless encampments. That strategy does not work. It has not worked in any city in the country. Why? Because they aren't safe. They are not safe for the people living in them. They are not safe for the surrounding neighborhoods. As mayor, I've been briefed very directly on the consequences of them. I hear about the 12-year-old girl that is being trafficked. I hear about the retaliatory shooting that is about to take place. And as mayor, it's my responsibility to keep people safe in encampments and to keep the surrounding neighborhoods safe. So what do? We go and we offer services. We then offer services again. We offer shelter. Oftentimes we offer homes. We bring out a mobile medical unit to make sure that people have the care and health treatment that they need. And then if they have then declined those services, yes, we close the encampment because it is not safe for the neighborhood. We provide a compassionate approach, but we can't abdicate our responsibility to do the thing that is safe for our city.
Okay, thank you. And actually, encampments are my next question, but I'm going to go back just very briefly. I'm going to give both Jazz Hampton and DeWayne Davis each another, say, 30 seconds, because I really am curious. Again, I'm hearing a lot of similarities, but Omar Fateh said that his approach might be different. There's a focus on public health, on investing in specific additional 200 shelter beds. Is that different? And is there anything else that you would name is specifically different from Omar Fateh, DeWayne Davis?
My difference is this. One, I want to have a situation, and this is why I want the homeless response team to be larger, so that we won't get a chance for an encampment to get to be an encampment. So if you have people out there really aggressively reaching to people, then when you see one tent or two, before it becomes 50, then that's what I'm trying to stop. The concern about the mayor's approach, however, is that we always wait until it gets to be 50, and then of course it's a crime play. It's a place of crime. So the idea is to just make sure that we have a system that is big enough that it's multiple approaches. Some of it would be shelter beds, but some of it would have to be detox, real investment in that, and some would have to be, again, public health, would have to be mental health treatment.
Thank you. Mayor Frey, I see your hand. This is my next question, so I promise I'll come to you first on it, but Jazz Hampton, I'm going to give you, what is different about your approach, specifically from Omar Fateh and DeWayne Davis?
Yeah, I think the partnership with those specific organizations that are already doing it and asking us to do it within the city right now. And they are raising their hand and saying, we can come in and deliver these services. So yes, I agree that we need more beds, but we also need to deliver the wraparound services there as well. I was at the Aliveness Project just last week, and it's a place where you can go and see a clinician and walk across the hallway and receive the pharmaceutical meds that you need and go upstairs to the food pantry that look nicer than a Trader Joe's. Those organizations and partnering with them directly on site is the difference that I think will push us out of this and move folks out of that living situation.
Okay. Jacob Frey, you were raising your hand, so I'll give you 30 seconds to respond before I move to my next question.
So every solution that has been proposed by the candidates next to me is, in fact, in the process of being implemented. We mentioned a public health approach. We provide a public health approach. Mentioned adding shelter beds. We have added dramatically to the shelters beds in our system. Affordable housing was mentioned. We have done that more than virtually any city in the country on a per capita basis. And people have talked about going out to homeless encampments and partnering with the service providers and other social service entities. Yes, we're presently doing that. The area where we do differ, however, is the question ultimately of once those services have been offered and then offered again, do you close the homeless encampment? We disagree on that, and I would argue the consequence of leaving them in place is not ultimately just an impact on homelessness, it's an impact to safety.
Thank you. Great. That's my next question. And I'm going to start, Omar Fateh, with you. When, if ever, would you clear an encampment? Is it when it reaches a certain size, when people are offered services and shelter and they refuse it after a certain amount of time? Is it when violence breaks out?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And so there's a few things to that. Number one, the city needs to do a better job at having good faith efforts in reaching out to our unhoused population. I visited many encampments and I've talked to many people on the ground. And when you speak to them, they say that when the staff comes to them, they sort of come and say like they're grossed out by the folks that are there, right? And number two, when they provide this, say, hey, we're providing you this paperwork, here's the resources that you need. A lot of times they look at it and they say, well, this number doesn't work anymore. This shelter this shelter doesn't have enough beds. These aren't resources that I can use. They get that paper, and then they get their stuff
I understand.
taken away.
The question, though, specifically is
Yeah.
about, are there conditions in which you would actually move forward with clearing an
Yeah,
encampment?
so two things to that. Number one, we need to take a proactive approach and not a reactive, meaning that we have to not allow them to form in terms of not fencing them off or not breaking them up, but in terms of actually providing the services that they need to thrive and be successful. That's number one. Number two, we wouldn't have to break them up if we make those good faith efforts in providing them housing. The fact that they're rejecting these services in large is just, that's not true. That's a false statement. Anyone that can go on the ground to talk to folks, no, that's not true. Folks need help, but they're not getting that good faith efforts to reach out to them. We need to make sure that we're providing them, if they need mental health services, provide them that. If they need treatment, provide them that. We need to make sure we're supporting our shelters. We need to partner with our county and our state to do so.
I appreciate it. These are all, I doubt you are going to find disagreement like on stage in terms of wanting to provide more of those services. I didn't hear an actual answer to the question, though. Is there any condition in which you would eventually say we have to clear this encampment?
There's no situation in which we can throw away people's belongings, like their social security cards, like their IDs. A couple weeks ago, we had a shooting in one of the encampments, for example, on Lake Street. And within 24 hours of that traumatic event, which was traumatic for also our unhoused neighbors, we had one person say that not only did they take away my belongings, but they threw away the ashes of my child.
Right.
To me, that's heartbreaking. No family member should ever go through that. And so we need to take an approach where we're not just going in and throwing away everything. We need to take an approach where we're actually dealing with folks in a humane and compassionate way, because nobody wants encampments. Unhoused neighbors don't want it. None of the challengers want it.
Right.
None of our neighbors want it. It's unsafe for everyone.
I'm going to come to Mayor Frey, but I'm going to try just for a third. So, because I'm just hearing like that I think, again, nobody wants encampments. And we could have a long debate about whether or not they are something that you can entirely prevent from ever happening. And so, again, the reality, they have happened. They do exist. And so, and you know, you named a time when there was violence at one. Is that still not a place where you would say, no, we need to shut this down?
The reason why the violence occurred is because we have an administration that didn't take a proactive approach. And what I'm saying is that you wouldn't have to get to a point where you have to bulldoze neighbors, bulldoze encampments, if you'd allow them the space to not form by giving them the resources they need to succeed in the first place.
So the answer is no, there's not a situation.
There would not be a situation in which
which
encampments would grow in that such large manner, no.
Okay. I will, Mayor Frey, Jacob Frey, I will come to you. I mean, you have cleared encampments with the city, so.
Yes, facts matter. And with the particular encampment that Senator Fateh was referencing, we went out again and again and again to provide services. We went out with a mobile medical unit to provide health care. We went out with our homeless response team in the county to make sure that people had access to both shelter and service. In this case, we even went so far as to authorize a lawsuit against the private property owner. And to say that we weren't taking a proactive approach is just wrong. And let's be clear, this is a place where 7 people got shot. And so, do we clear the homeless encampment for the safety of the people there and the surrounding neighborhood? Absolutely we do. This was a crime scene. There were bullet casings all over the place. You know, as mayor, you don't just deal with these situations as hypotheticals. I was out there at 1:30 in the morning to deal with the circumstances of this particular case. And so after all of that, to still say that you should keep the encampment in place is just wrong.
Senator Fateh, I'll come back again. I give you 30 seconds to respond to that. Do you disagree that that once you get to a place where there's actual violence and shooting, that it's not something to clear?
Well, first, we shouldn't have to get to a point in which a private citizen buys up land and has encampments form on that land because the city is not doing their job. That should not be happening in the first place. Okay. But the response that I want to get is, once you bulldoze our unhoused neighbors, once you push them out, where do they go? Where are they expected to go? We're saying that we're doing good faith efforts to put them in housing, to place them and help them with treatment, help them in shelters. Where do you expect them to go?
So
the answer to that is to the next neighborhood, and that no neighbors want that. None of our neighbors want that. our unhoused population don't want that. None of the challengers want that. So the strategy of just saying we're going to clear them up, let them form in another location, that's a failed strategy.
I thank you. DeWayne Davis, I'm going to come to you next, and then Jazz Hampton. Again, as a reminder, the original question was, are there conditions, and if so, what are they when you would clear an encampment? Size, services offered and refused, violence breaks out.
So again, I want to start here. When violence breaks out, you have to send in law enforcement. But my point is, we have now a pattern. An encampment gets so large, and it becomes a target for all kinds of criminal activity. What I'm talking about is, how do you make sure an encampment doesn't get going? Yesterday, I walked down Plymouth Avenue in North Minneapolis, and there was an unhoused person setting up a tent next to a parking lot. Now, immediately, what needs to happen is a homelessness response team that gets a bead on there and get out there to make sure that they are working with that person, because if that tent is there today, tomorrow, and a third day, a second one is going to come up. A third one is going to come up. So you have to provide this. In essence, I don't want it to get to the point where you have hundreds of people gathering that way because it becomes a target. So the service has to come before it becomes this big out of control encampment. That's the difference. We have the pattern. There is going to be crime. We know it. So now, how do we make sure that we don't get them in the first place?
I thank you again. So I'm hearing you say if there is violence, you have to send police in. Is that a matter then of clearing that encampment at that point? Would you have cleared the encampment after there was a shooting there?
Here's the thing. I don't think you have a choice. And again, I don't want to be forced into that choice.
Right.
And
Nobody does, I don't think.
Right. Well, but again, because here's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to clear that encampment. I saw it again. I saw it when the last shooting. I went after there after the encampment was dispersed. And guess what? Just a few blocks down, it starts to emerge again. So again, right in the parking lot of the post office on Minnehaha. So again, I'm saying, what did we just do? Of course, we broke it up, but we didn't deal with the issue because now there was the beginnings of another one. So of course, like I said, once it gets to the point where you have no choice, you have to send the law enforcement because it is a matter of safety now. We know that criminal activity is occurring. Again, we need to expend the resources and time to make sure that once it just does not catch hold.
And just very quickly, because this is, and I've given Jacob Frey and Omar Fateh lots of time on this. So I'm hearing yes, if there's actual violence, if there's something like a shooting, you would feel. Are there other conditions? If there's other kinds of crime going on, if it reaches a certain size, are there any other conditions when you would say we need to clear it?
I can imagine that there will. If when it comes to the safety of people, again, if we know that we have very clear indications or reporting of some kind of trafficking or some kind of abuse of children, we definitely have to send law enforcement in there. But again, I can't emphasize it enough. Why do we get to that point where that can even occur?
Okay.
That's the issue that I'm really concerned about.
Thank you so much. Jazz Hampton, same question to you. What are the conditions in which you would feel it is necessary to clear an encampment of unhoused people?
I don't want to confuse anyone. I feel like there's a lot of confusion happening with the answers to these questions, so I want to be really clear. The word clear in an encampment, if this means showing the people that we have additional resources, collecting their belongings, just like you have to when someone is evicted, collecting belongings and help store those belongings, help move them to a place that is more humane and can deliver services. If that is clearing, I just want to make sure what the definition is. Absolutely. If there's violence, if there is crime, rampant crime happening, as the Reverend just said, that we are seeing directly, I am absolutely on board with collecting people's belongings and helping them move to a better location. And if there's criminal activity like shootings and others, having them be prosecuted like anyone else that lives in the city of Minneapolis. I think that's a very clear standard that most people in the city do agree with. And I think that before that, you have to do the work. There should be a number. Jazz, you're mayor. How many times did your team go out and meet with Johanna, who is in that encampment? How many times did they talk with Sydney and offer the services, and then a second and a third time? There has to be protocol leading up to these moments as well, not a changing on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, and we're just about out of time on this. So I'm hearing a similar theme. Violence is one of the themes. Crime taking place. I am curious, like in the situation where you are offering these services. I mean, you yourself just named there may be people who are criminals in these spaces. I'm guessing that they aren't necessarily always going to accept those services and those opportunities. So what is your response then?
If there is a shooting, someone should be arrested. If someone is selling drugs to a victim that is underage at that moment, I want the same outcome as every other resident within the city of Minneapolis. However, we have to understand that, as we've said up here before, that this is a public health crisis, and we have to try to deliver services in this moment as the primary opportunity within these conversations. And we have so many opportunities to do that here in the city of Minneapolis and across the river as well, that we need to actively do that work on a by-name basis. The thought of sweeping someone before you know their name and have addressed them multiple times does not reconcile with what I think is helpful in the city of Minneapolis.
Okay, great. I am going to stay with you, Jazz Hampton, as we move to one of the other really big issues that folks were asking about from this audience and is on people's minds in the city, which is rent control. And so a member of the Becketwood community submitted the pretty straightforward question: do you support rent control? And if so, what specific cap on rent increases would you propose? What exemptions would the policy have?
I do not support strict rent stabilization that has been proposed and presented in the city of Minneapolis. Again, as I tell my students, I want them to learn from my mistakes of running a business and not have to learn them themselves. And we saw across the river in St. Paul that it did not help, because here is the need that we're trying to address. Because remember, rent stabilization is a tool to address a need. The need is more housing in the city of Minneapolis, and rent stabilization as presented right now would not do it. Because here's what I need to know is true. We have to improve opportunities for people that are renters to move in to buy their homes. We have to improve the access to legal help when people are looking at being evicted. We have to look into the ability to make housing more affordable more generally for people who stay in renting situations. Those are the levers we need to pull and to grow the housing. And to that point, to go from 29 new units of deeply affordable housing to 290 in a year, that is 8.5 times growth, but it's not the amount of growth we need in the city. And rent stabilization, as presented as it has been thus far, will not help us do that growth of deeply affordable housing that we truly need in this city.
DeWayne Davis, I'm going to move all the way down the line. Do you support rent control? If so, under what conditions?
No, I do not. And in the premise of that question, you actually gave the answer as to why I don't. Because as soon as you do that, and you realize that rent controls is preventing the additional supply of housing that you need, then you will choose exemptions or you'll change. And so I just don't think that the government is in a good position to set caps and that kind of thing. But the answer would be is, how do you have a broad base of housing opportunities and available housing? How do you get to deeply affordable? And one way to do that is to do the same level of incentivization of private development. We need to have the same level of incentivizing of public and nonprofit development. Really helping nonprofits build these houses, because then they can set rent. They can set it at deeply affordable. They can be a part of a market system that actually also helps have a broad market and make sure that we are bidding up the price of private housing. So rent control, to me, like I said in the premise of your question, then if you find out that you are interfering with the supply of housing, you're going to end up having to do things like exemptions that you're seeing happening in St. Paul.
Omar Fateh, same question to you. Do you support rent control, and what are the specific policy conditions if you do?
Yeah, so in 2021, Minneapolis voters voted by a majority for our city to explore a rent stabilization policy and to do the work around doing that. And that's something that I do support. And by the way, it's not a radical idea to protect our renters. At the national level, we had both Biden and Harris campaign on a policy of, I believe, a 5% cap So this isn't just a local issue. This isn't just a state issue. This is a national issue. I think that I would support exemptions for new construction, especially if we're able to incentivize good behavior, saying, well, you get an exemption if you build X amount of affordable units, or you get an exemption if you do this or do that, these guidelines, right? I think that's the right approach to take. But for far too long, we haven't had an approach in which we are protecting our renters. And another issue that we need to talk about is that this is just one tool in the toolbox. This isn't the end-all, be-all. This is one of many strategies that we need to implement. Things like TOPA, the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act. That's another thing that I think is a good tool that we can pursue, that the City Council supported.
So I'm going to give you another 30 seconds just to respond to some of the critiques that DeWayne Davis and Jazz Hampton brought up about rent control in terms of the government getting into the business, having to create a lot of exemptions that could constrain supply. How do you respond?
I don't think that's the case. And for example, the situation in St. Paul, in which a lot of folks I heard on the campaign trail bring up, I think their unique situation is one that we can actually learn from, because I think that there's a lot of factors that also played into what went on in St. Paul, like nationwide inflation, the national shortage on building, for example, and construction. I think there's a whole host of things. And so that's part of the work in doing this. We got to explore and learn about what worked, what didn't work with City Council, work with folks on the ground, work with our partners to figure out what works and how we can implement it.
Jacob Frey, same question. Do you support rent control under what conditions?
I don't support rent control. Why? Because it doesn't work. It has been shown in every city where it's been tried to be ineffective. Ineffective because investment goes down, the supply of housing units goes down, and guess what? Oftentimes, you don't even get the impact of stabilizing or controlling the rent. St. Paul has rent control, we don't. That first year there, rents went up by more in St. Paul than they did in Minneapolis. In fact, in Minneapolis, we have managed to keep rents down more than virtually any city in the country. If you look at the lists, we're oftentimes in the top 2 to 3 to 7 in terms of keeping the rents down, and that has enabled more people to stay in their homes. And now, if I could add, I think there is some distinguishing from the other candidates between rent control and rent stabilization. Sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's the same general policy, but it is a matter of degree.
Fair. Jazz Hampton.
Tomato, tomato.
30 seconds.
I meant the same for both words, so I appreciate the distinguishing, whether
Okay.
we're talking about rent stabilization, rent control.
Fair.
Same thing.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to jump into a different topic, but has a similar theme of the city getting involved in property sales, which is Mayor Frey, just last week, you vetoed something through the city council, an ordinance talking about commercial property sales notice. And it would have been a policy that requires commercial property owners in several designated cultural districts, plus areas in North Minneapolis and near the University of Minnesota, to give 60 days notice to the city and any tenants before putting their buildings on the market. And I'm borrowing that language from Minnesota Public Radio. So I'm going to start with you, Jacob Frey, on why you vetoed it, and then I'm going to ask the other candidates where they are on that same topic.
We need to be bringing our downtown and commercial spaces back. We want new investment to come in. We want local investment to come in to say, we want to revitalize this building. We want to get new tenants in. And yes, we also want to solidify the existing tenants that we have. As was said by council members, from Councilmember Michael Rainville to Councilmember Katie Cashman, both representing downtown, this is not a strategy that works. Additionally, what we need to be doing is standing up for small and local businesses. As we find opportunities to shift the space as new owners come on board, we got to find ways to break up the space so it's not just one big vanilla conglomerate. When you walk down the street, you'll have room for 5 or 6 or 8 different small and locally owned businesses on the block. This is about investing in them and making sure they have what they need to succeed.
Okay, I'm going to try and get all 4 on this. So, Jazz Hampton, would you have vetoed this commercial property sales tax notice ordinance?
This speaks to a larger veto question. I said earlier my dad was a paratrooper. Veto is like using a reserve parachute. Thank goodness that we have it sometimes, but we shouldn't be relying upon it consistently over and over again. And so when someone says, would you have vetoed this thing or that, we're operating under the presumption that I would have been in the room with the city council members and developed the exact same plan. And my first step would be to develop a better plan that we all could be happy going forward with. And then, if I am then talking about this specific plan, I then look to the members that are a part of that conversation, the city council members that represent it. And input from them will help me understand how to best serve their constituents. That's what being a good leader is. Listening to the city council members that lead those areas and helping you inform the decision. Therefore, I would have been in a similar position on this specific question, but I would not have been using that specific piece of paper in the first place.
I understand. So, I mean, again, this is one where it came across your desk, and I understand you can imagine a different lead up to that. And yet, I think people have a right to know, like, would you have vetoed it, like, if this specific thing that had come across the desk last week shown up on your desk?
I would have been in line with the council members that were representing that area and then working with them on a better version of it going forward. Yes.
So yes.
And I would have worked with them on a better version of it going forward.
And if this version had come up, you would have said no.
Correct.
Got it.
And then worked with them on a better version.
Okay, got it. Senator Fateh, same question to you. Would you? I understand we can imagine a better version of the policy, but if this version had shown up on your desk, would you have signed it or vetoed it?
No, I would have supported it. And we have an opportunity to not only restore downtown, but have it be more locally owned and have the people of Minneapolis, their businesses, their entrepreneurship, their ideas, be best supported through this. And I think that also, number two, this is a larger issue that goes outside of this. And this extends also not just to commercial properties, but into housing. And that's one of the things I try to tackle at the state level. There's large entities from Los Angeles and New York and Atlanta and Florida all over that have been buying up large swaths of property for the purposes of profit, not helping local businesses or helping local families.
Okay, thank you so much. DeWayne Davis, same question to you. This proposed ordinance come across your desk. Would you have signed it or vetoed it?
Again, and I know what you're going to try to tell me to do. I actually don't know. Here's the thing. I mean, to get to a veto, I just can't imagine that we could not have sat down and figured out a way to do this. The reason I say this is because, again, I really want to learn more about it. I mean, I'm just like you. I read the NPR story. But here's my point. Again, just now, the mayor had an opportunity to, I'm a policy wonk. The mayor had an opportunity right now to tell us what idea he would have had as an alternative idea. In essence, what I want to do is hear, again, the reasons why people wrote this bill, but also to hear why, again, what is his answer, and then this is what my colleague was talking about. Then what kind of a program or policy could we write that gets at our shared goal, our shared vision? So again, if this came across my desk now, I'm trying everything in my power not to veto. And to not veto means I'm going to work with you to get my idea and hear your idea and come up with a policy that we think could work. Okay, so I promise, Jacob Frey, I'm coming back to you, but very quickly, since you asked the question, DeWayne Davis, I'll give you 30 seconds. What is the, if you don't know whether you would veto this or not, what is the policy, one policy that you would propose that is trying to accomplish this same idea in terms of commercial properties being kept within, I guess, the notion of this giving tenants or people in the city first access to them? Well, is there some kind of regulation that we could, or zoning or regulation or something that we can require that we're making sure that people who do live in the state or in the city has ownership of it? I'm saying this because we do know that there is a lot of speculation in housing with LLCs that may be from a foreign country or from another state. So again, is there something that we can kind of figure out to make sure that we're doing that? If this is a blunt tool to do that, it may not be the best tool. And I'm willing to hear that and say, you know what, I don't think this is the right go. But I also want to hear another idea to tell me what is the best tool. Jacob Frey, what's another idea?
I'm happy to give you another idea. It's called our Ownership and Opportunity Fund. It is a fund that was built to ensure that business owners, small and local, had the opportunity not just to own the underlying business, but to own the underlying real estate, so that when their work gains value in the building, they don't get the boot from the place where they made wonderful to begin with. They own the building itself. It's exactly what we're talking about here, and we have actually implemented. But moreover, and this is what you're seeing right now, as mayor, you do actually need to make decisions. And when you make decisions, not everybody is going to like those decisions all the time, but you make them nonetheless. I don't veto things for my health. I vetoed them, in this case, for the health of the city and a recovery that we need to see. It was asked what the council members of those districts thought. Well, the truth is that this could impact most any council member in the city. As to downtown, they both thought that it was the right decision to veto it, both of them. And so, yeah, you can work with council members. We work with them in good faith. We try to find solutions. And then sometimes there's an honest disagreement, and I will not abdicate my responsibility to do the right thing for the city.
Okay, let's stay downtown for a second. I'm hoping this one maybe we can actually do relatively quickly. I'm only going to give you 30 seconds each, and because I'm hoping that it's a relatively, it's a complex question, but I'm hoping the answer is relatively straightforward. Do you support, there's proposals to take buses off of Nicollet Mall and reroute them. Do you support taking buses off of Nicollet Mall and rerouting them to Hennepin or elsewhere? Omar Fateh, I'll start with you.
No, I do not support taking buses off Nicollet Mall. It's really important for folks in the surrounding area and our workers to be able to be mobile and to use our transit system to get around. I think it would be more harmful, and that's not something that I would support.
DeWayne Davis?
I do not support taking transit off Nicollet Mall. And the interesting thing is, I have not, the only people I've heard in support of taking them off Nicollet Mall are people who do not use public transportation. That's the interesting thing.
Jazz Hampton?
First of all, I would address that there's some legal issues with doing that on our own that we would have to consider as well. But no, I do not think moving them off it is the idea that we have to go with right now. And I will say this, we're trying to address a problem, and this is kind of like the rent stabilization question. This is removing them from Nicollet Mall is one lever of trying to improve the restaurants and the livability of that corridor, and we can do other things rather than removing buses to do that.
Jacob Frey?
We have two streets in Marquette and 2nd that were built for bus and at times bus exclusive use. If you were to move the buses from Nicollet over just one block, you could have the potential to create a beautiful pedestrian street. And yes, it is a lot of work. Yes, there are logistics to work out. But we can run with a great vision, because it's not going to be the downtowns that cling white-knuckled to what once was that are successful. It'll be those that embrace change that see true success.
Just as a tie-up from the last question, if the city council members who represent Nicollet Mall downtown oppose taking the buses off, would you still support it?
So at the moment, I believe there's one that supports it and one that opposes it. And so obviously you work with council members to ensure that it's not just this or that. You make sure that you've got, we talked about having them taken off temporarily, maybe over weekends or evenings, to make sure that you could have a pedestrian mindset when there's more traffic. That's one example.
Okay, I am going to move to one last big topic before we come to closing statements. I have a whole bunch, y'all, and so we got to do this again. I know this is another question that was submitted from the audience, and is something I know there's people in the room who are very passionate about, which is the Roof Depot site, which is something, somebody said yes. The Roof Depot site, which is a city-owned piece of land that the East Phillips Neighborhood Institute, which is an environmental advocacy group, has been working with the city to try and purchase. Last month, they missed the deadline to come up with $11.4 million to purchase the Roof Depot site from the city. They are approximately $5.7 million short after failing to get state dollars to underpin this. This is, for context, the third deadline that they've missed at this point. And so the question is, at this point, if you were mayor, would you agree to the sale of the Roof Depot site to EPNI at $5.7 million below the agreed upon sale price? And I will start with Jazz Hampton.
For context, the dollars were earmarked or were hoped to be given by the state of Minnesota, that $5.7 million, and the ability of those dollars, which would have gotten them to that goal, was then removed. When a promise that was guaranteed by a government entity or that was offered by a government entity at the state level, and then also the city level was revoked, I think it's the city's job to then step in and be a part of the solution in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if that's calling just the Minneapolis Foundation and other organizations in the city to advocate for it, but what I would not do is sit back and say, this is no longer my problem because the $5.7 million was taken away. This is a program that is deeply, deeply cared for by so many people within our city. So I would work tirelessly. And the last step, if the very last step was ensuring that we could lower the price to do that, I would be open to a conversation about it. But I think there are 25 steps that we should take before that comes, and I would be there present for each and every one of those steps.
So you're open to potentially selling it for less?
Yes.
And it sounds like you also are actually proposing extending the deadline, continuing this for however long it takes?
I would continue the deadline at least short-term and temporarily, without a doubt. We have to give an opportunity for, honestly, an organization that was offered money from the state level and it was taken away. Yes, I would give them more time to try to find those dollars. They found over $3 million from the public already. I would give them the time they need to do this project. We can be a northern star in the work of showing how a program like EPNI can work within our city. There is no way that I would not take those additional steps and give additional time to do that.
I'm going to just bounce around with this. So Jacob Frey, if you continue to be mayor into the next 4 years, are you open, as Jazz Hampton just said, to continuing to extend the deadline and even selling the site at potentially $5 million below the agreed upon sale price?
We have a massive opportunity for this site, and in the process of realizing that opportunity, we need to be working with both community and we need to be operating in reality. You mentioned, Tane, this is the third deadline that has been missed, and we have a responsibility to the taxpayers of this city to make sure that we're not just spending $5.7 million of their money without a clear plan to get something done. We are working with community members. We are working with foundations. In fact, I believe that I'm meeting with EPNI either this week or next for the second time to ensure that we can collaborate to find a way forward. Does that mean just reducing the price dramatically and extending the deadline even further that would have a massive impact on property taxes for you all? No. It means that we try to find a solution that works both for you all as well as the surrounding neighborhood.
So just to really put a pin on it, you would not agree to a sale that is, say, again, 5.7 below the 11.4 million.
I would not agree to a sale that is 5.7 below.
Okay. DeWayne Davis, same question to you.
Again, I like this idea. Again, it's a wonderful project, and it is in furtherance of another goal. Here's my point. The Homegrown Minneapolis Food Council's Food Action Plan has direct support for something like an urban farm. It is in there. This is what we should be incentivizing. This is what we should be making more of. We should be working to get foodstuffs. By the way, in furtherance of that, because we have a federal government that has said and is in the process now of cutting off SNAP benefits. So we are going to have a food issue. At my church at Plymouth, we have one of the largest food shelves, Groveland Food Shelf. We have always had to backstop that because of federal cuts. So my point is, yes, if there's a way to work it so that we can get that, maybe more time, maybe helping them figure out how to get the money, but the idea is to make sure it happens. And if we exhaust all those possibilities, if in the next state legislative session we can't get the 5.7, at least we can again come up with some option, some time, some kind of mortgage, some kind of abatement any way that we can get this operating, because it's in furtherance of another goal that we have.
And just since I really pushed Jacob Frey on this, would you agree to a sale? Is what you are just saying there that you would potentially agree to a sale that is 5.7 lower?
Yeah, I would potentially, but again, the idea is, given that they have been successful at getting so much more money than we thought they could get, could we extend the deadline and keep trying to work at that option? If it gets to the point where, again, maybe the state legislature doesn't come through again, or the other supports or the ways they're trying to raise the money doesn't come through, then maybe it won't be 5.7, maybe it'll be 3.7, maybe it'll be 2. Maybe we can keep getting it down to a certain point. If they don't get to the exact number, but we really want to move with it, then we can work with them on how to do that.
Okay. Omar Fateh, are you open to selling the Roof Depot site for as much as $5.7 million, less than the $11.4 million to EPNI?
Yes, and not only do I support it, but I believe as a city and as a state, we are morally obligated to do so. And that is because we did come up with a deal at the Capitol. The House, the Senate supported it. The governor was going to sign it. But unfortunately, because of Republicans filibustering, time ran out. And because of that, we know that through no fault of their own, that they weren't able to get that money. And so I would work with them to secure the funding, whether it's getting another shot at the Capitol, or making sure that we get it done here in the city locally. But I would not accept failure. I would not accept not doing it, especially in East Phillips, where it's a neighborhood that has suffered from environmental injustice for so long, through corporate polluters, having families and kids with the highest rates of asthma and cancer and heart disease. I think that we need to reverse that kind of harm, doing things like supporting the urban farm, where we can have green jobs and housing and youth programming and things like that. I think that's the right approach to take.
Okay, and again, just since I really tried to get it, and I think I heard you already say yes, but yes, you would potentially sell it for $5.7 million.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really good. I want to ask so many other things, but we are just about out of time. So I am going to give each candidate, we're going to give each candidate 60 seconds here at the end for a closing statement. And since we went this way last time, I'm going to go this way this time. So we will start with Jazz Hampton, 60 seconds for a closing statement.
My name is Jazz Hampton, and I cannot wait to be the next mayor of Minneapolis on behalf of each and every one of you. A mayor that is building bridges with all of the council members and working to ensure that we can deliver results for our city. I've sat down and had coffee or breakfast and even a beer with all of those city council members, ensuring that even if we disagree on policy, I will work with you to move the city forward. And I can't wait to do that on behalf of each and every one of you. And I have to say this, it is a ranked choice election. My son, he doesn't have the best grades right now, but if he graduates from Southwest High School with a 3.8 GPA and he says, Dad, I want to go to MIT, Hendrix, we're going to write the best admissions letter that we ever have written before. And we're going to do it, and we're going to try our best, because that's where you want, and that's the hope that you have in your heart. But you're also going to apply to the University of Minnesota and the St. Thomas. That is how I want you to vote. I want you to vote with your heart and with enthusiasm, and then you can use the backup plan as well. That is how we should be voting in this city, because you are voting with your heart for the vision that we all have in our city. And I cannot wait to represent you in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. DeWayne Davis.
This is a wonderful city. We have an abundance of riches in people, ideas, creativity, and we can deal with all of the hard challenges in front of us, and we have no choice. But here's the thing, we are equal to the task. The one thing that I know is that Minneapolis has shown up, Minneapolis has gone forward. I don't want you to look at the gridlock and the cynicism. I don't want you to look at what's going on in Washington and think that we can't do it. We can. We have what we need. We can do better. We deserve better. Now let's go and do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DeWayne Davis and Omar Fateh.
Once again, thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to all of us, and you got to hear from our vision and what we think the city can look like. And we're honored to have the people and the resources to make this city thrive. We just need a mayor that works as hard as you do. And I'm honored to have built a multiracial, multi-generational campaign being endorsed by 6 out of the 13 city council members as the first choice, including the president and vice president. Honored to be endorsed by not only the progressive wing of state legislators, but some of the blue dog Democrats that show that despite some of our strong differences, we work well together, including my chair of the Human Services Committee, Senator John Hoffman, who's my good friend of mine, supports our campaign, and we worked hard to address issues for our seniors, investing in nursing homes and investing in our PCAs as well. But we also got to build a front line of defense against a hostile federal government. And I heard from my father that when he first came to America, he heard this, the first year, the speech from George Wallace, segregation now, segregation forever. And right now, we're hearing some of that similar rhetoric from Trump and his administration. And so we need to make sure that we have a city that protects everyone, especially our most vulnerable communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jacob Frey.
Well, I'm grateful to my fellow candidates. I'm grateful to the people here of Becketwood. You are known to be some of the most informed voters in the whole city, and so thank you for taking the time, and thank you, of course, Mr. Tane Danger. Right now, our city has a choice to make about our future, and in fact, we can be at a crossroads. We have a path that values slogans and rhetoric, and what will look good on social media posts over what can actually work. And there's another path that values delivering results for our city. Through the hardest of times, I have always valued the latter, to make sure that we can choose the correct direction for our city and we can all go hand in hand facing that future. I love this city. I'm raising my family here. We will stand by it, and we will stand with each and every one of you to make sure that Minneapolis is a place we are proud to call home.
On that note, can you all please do a big round of applause for all 4 of these candidates for taking this time here today? It has absolutely been an honor to get to be part of this with you all today. I really applaud you all, Becketwood, for organizing this. There are not a lot of places that really lean into the good work of democracy as hard and as faithfully, I believe, as this community has done over many years, but specifically today. So thank you all so much. And with that, Mr. Eric Nathanson, I think, has one last thing to say.
I just wanted to thank Tane and the panel for a very thoughtful, informative discussion. No haranguing, no speaking over. This is how campaign forums should be held. And thank you very much, Tane. Another round of applause.
All right. I believe that's our program, you all. Don't forget to vote between now and November 4.